One of the many products that I make are smudge sticks and smudge kits, and one of the most frequent questions that I get is, how do I use it? What is the difference between what's in the tin and what's in the shell? What's the difference between the loose herbs and the sticks? So that's what I'm going to talk about today, is the difference between them and how you are to use it. So the first thing is ritual purification with smoke has been used by all tribal cultures across the entire planet, from the Aborigines in Australia all the way over to Turtle Island here in North America. Every tribal culture has used some sort of smoke purification. They use it to send their prayers to their deities, they use it to clean their environment, to clean themselves spiritually. Cleansing with smoke has been around for thousands and thousands of years. So there's so many different plants that you can use for this. Every culture has their own favorites. Juniper is actually one that has been used by almost all of them in the northern part of the equator. It's said to be extremely helpful for ridding negativity. It has a really nice smell too. So if you have the chance to use juniper, I recommend that, as well as with the cedar. Both two very powerful cleansing plants. Anyway, I'm not going to get too much into the purpose of the different plants today. I'm going to actually show you how to use them. The first one I'm going to talk about is the easiest, and that's the sticks. Sticks come in various different sizes. They come in different types. This is a large cedar bundle that I've made. These are my mini sticks, which are the most popular, the easiest to use as well because they're smaller. You can get large ones like this at metaphysical stores. This one is sage. You can even consider a sweetgrass braid to be a stick because it is in a stick shape. These are hard to keep lit though, but their smell is very much worth it. So for lighting sticks, I'll show you on one that I already have started here. You just hold your stick. Some people, myself included, like to dismantle their bundles a little bit and just do it one leaf at a time, which is awesome. You get full effect of the smoke, but you're not using as much of your bundle. But I'm going to show you how to light the whole thing right now. I put the lighter directly underneath of it and hold it up like this, because that will draw the flame in. And then I just swirl around like that, and it's got a really good smolder on it. So you can put this around to all your directions, and that's pretty good. So once you have these lit, you want to keep them in a fireproof container. This is a smudge bowl that I made during a pottery workshop a couple of years ago. You can also use abalone shells. You could even use clam shells if you have them, or any fireproof bowl. You could use the pot for your kitchen, you can use a ceramic bowl, anything you want as long as it is fireproof. So once you have these lit, you just put them down in your bowl. You can even snuff them out. One thing that I like to do with them is I'll take my scissors and I will snip the coals out, just to make sure that it is completely safe. But even still, I will let it sit in the ceramic for a couple of hours before I put it away, because you do not want to risk that setting fire. So I'm going to light one of the ones that hasn't been started. Now, the cedar and the juniper I find are a little more flammable just because they have a lot of flammable oils in them. So sometimes they can really start a good fire when you first light them. So you just let that burn itself down, or let it burn for half a minute just until it starts to glow a little orange, and then wave it out. So that's how you start those ones. Now it's just a little bit at first, but that is producing a lot of smoke. So So that's fairly good. So I'll just snuff that out there. And then with the cedar, you'll see how that sparks right up. Now cedar, a lot more so than other plants. And that has a much sweeter odor than the juniper. The juniper is a little stronger. So just snip this one out. So when you're using your dried herbs, whether it's in a shell or any other container, one thing that I usually recommend is filling your dish partway up with sand. That way it gives you a buffer between the flame and your container, because you don't want that to get hot, especially if you're holding this. I've made this so that it fits my hand like this and I can hold it, but if I have a fire in here burning my smudge plants, this container is going to get hot. So that's where the sand comes in. Don't have any sand today though, so I'll just show you how to do it without it. I have some loose herbs already here. So I'm just going to put these down in the bottom of my container. I'm going to get some of my little smudge tin as well. Put a little bit of sage in there. So one way of lighting these is you can take your lighter and just light one of your plants. It usually doesn't burn that well that way. It takes it a minute to smolder out, but you do get the smoke. Now, my favorite way of doing this is to take a live ember from a wood stove or campfire and put that in there. Now, you can also harvest embers once they've died down and have those cool in a little baggie, and you can light the embers with your lighter or a match in the dish and let it get red hot and then put your herbs over top of it, and that works really well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab an ember and show you what that looks like. So I have my ember here. I just took that out of the wood stove. I'm going to revive him by blowing on it. I'm going to pick him up by its dull side and stick that right in with the plant there. Now you can think of fire as a living creature. You have to feed them. So I'm going to put a little bit of sweetgrass on there, and you can see it's already smoldering. So that's pretty much how you do that one. Now you have to keep giving it air, giving it food, so that that can go up. Now if you have one that's hotter, it works a lot faster. As you can see, that is the hardest method to work with, but it does produce a smoke. Another form of smoke purification that you might be familiar with, you might not, is using resins. Resins from trees have been used for thousands of years. One of the most popular examples of tree resin smoke are frankincense and myrrh. You've all heard of them. They have been extensively talked about in the Bible, and a lot of churches today still use frankincense and myrrh in their censers. So to use these, a lot of people use them on charcoal burners, and I don't have a charcoal burner, but I can explain how to use it. You take your resin, which is literally just a little dried up glob of tree sap, and you light your charcoal, and you wait till your charcoal has burnt down, and then you drop it on. Now this produces a lot of smoke, which is great if you want to use smoke and have that visual, but if you just want the scent, if you're just using it as an incense, there is an easier way to use resins, and that is by using a little oil diffuser. And this one operates with a candle. So to use these ones, you pretty much just light your candle and stick that in. Now you don't want to burn your resins directly into this dish, so you want to put a little bit of vegetable oil or sunflower oil or some sort of carrier into the bowl dish here, and when that warms up you just sprinkle it in. There will be a small amount of smoke, but it will not be as much as if you were to put it on a piece of charcoal or an ember from a fire. Just going to warm that up, and then I'll show you how it's used. I'll talk a little bit more about resins here as well. You don't have to use frankincense and myrrh. Those are not the only tree resins available. You can actually use more local sources like spruce. This is my absolute favorite. The spruce resin here, it comes from trees that I've been familiar with since I was a teenager, that I've been visiting, and they are my favorite trees. So for me to be using resin from my most favorite trees, it makes burning these resins a lot more personal and spiritual of an experience than for me to be burning trees from the other side of the globe, like the frankincense and myrrh. So my oil's heated up here. I'm just going to take a little piece of my spruce, and you just drop that down, and it will dissolve, and it'll start to bubble up. I'm also going to throw a little piece of frankincense in there too, just to see how they mix. There's also other trees that you can use. You can use fir resin, and I like the smell of the fir, and I've been able to find some pretty large resin deposits on some of these local trees. And all of the resin that I harvest and sell is local. The only non-local resins that I have in the shop are, of course, the frankincense and the myrrh, which have to be imported because they don't grow here. Balsam fir resin, it has a very nice scent. It's very strong, and the smell is very similar to that of frankincense, and it is so much similar that French traders were actually trading balsam fir resin back to the home country to use in their churches in place of frankincense, which was very expensive. So it's pretty cool that one of our trees here in Canada was an import to be used in churches in Europe. Tamarack is also another favorite of mine. It is very, very citrusy. And you can collect these yourself. Just wander around the woods, know your trees, and just be responsible when you are collecting resins. I'll do another video about being responsible when collecting natural sources at a later date. But right now I just wanted to show you how to use these things. And I always like watching the resin as it bubbles and boils in the oil, because the shapes and everything is like cloud watching or tea leaf reading. It's really interesting, and I'm sure that you could probably do some sort of divination work just by watching the resin melt and swirl. It's pretty cool. Hopefully you found this video helpful in learning how to use the various types of smudging herbs, whether it be in a stick or whether it be loose herb. Hey Snow, did you learn anything today? If you have any questions, just let me know in the comments section below, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. If there are any other smudging related topics that you'd like me to cover, just send me a note, let me know, and I'll see what I can do for you.